Hey, Evan Green here from Griffin Armament, and today we're going to be discussing the Optimus silencer. We're going to be unboxing it. We're also going to be talking about the various configurations that are available for it, that you can set it up into, the individual accessories that are available for it separately, as well as maintenance and disassembly, reassembly, things like that. So first, just to give you a very brief snapshot of what the Optimus is, it's a universal silencer that is applicable for rimfire, 9mm pistol, as well as centerfire rifle calibers up to 300 Winchester Magnum. So it's kind of a universal suppressor that touches on 90% of commercially available cartridges, which makes it one of our most popular models and is a really good entryway to get into suppressors and suppressed shooting. And a lot of people buy it as their first suppressor, and then once they realize how much they enjoy suppressed shooting, they purchase specific caliber options and different things after that. But to get into it, we're going to unbox it here to show you what it all includes at this time going forward. So when you open it up, you'll find a quality assurance card in there that says, hey, we test fired your suppressor. You'll also find a little sticker sheet and a manual. The manual is going to cover it's going to have some nice photos in there and descriptions and things like that. It's going to cover, maintenance, use, how to set it up, what to do, what not to do, stuff like that. It's also going to have some accessory options on there for you to look at, and it's going to cover our lifetime warranty that covers this product. Also in the box is going to be a configurations table. This sheet is going to basically cover what I'm going to be talking to you today in this video with, which is how many different ways can you set up this suppressor, how long is it, how much is it going to weigh at that point, what is the applications for those different configurations. So it's going to cover that. So without further ado, let's get to the unboxing of the actual product. So you're going to have the suppressor tube with an end cap on it, already pre-assembled for you with the baffles inside. You're going to have a little microfiber pouch for your product, a taper mount rifle rated extension, a rifle rated blast baffle, a muzzle device in a 30 caliber 5/8/24 muzzle device, so that you can mount your rifle assembly together. It's going to come with an additional end cap. So the Optimus actually comes with two end caps, a 9mm one and a 22 caliber one. It's also going to come with two different takedown wrenches. One of them is really all you need to configure the product out of the box. Another one is basically given to you for free in the event that you buy some aftermarket accessories and things like that. And you want to be able to obviously use those accessories with your Optimus. Comes with the shim set for timing your muzzle device to your rifle. Also is going to come with a complete booster piston housing, which is going to also include a piston, which you're going to need to attach the product to your pistol. And then lastly, it's going to come with a baffle pusher tool for pushing the rifle rated baffle out of the suppressor. So it comes with all the tools that you need and enough parts to set it up for a 30 caliber rifle, as well as a 9mm pistol out of the box, as well as shooting it on a rimfire, a 22 caliber rimfire product. So pretty cool. Comes with everything you need to have a great experience with the product. One thing that I will touch on right away is that the booster piston assembly does have this warning sticker over it in the box. And basically what it says is that this included piston assembly is for use with barrels with tilting action mechanisms only, such as a Glock pistol or an M&P pistol or a SIG pistol or a 1911. It says that use on fixed barrel firearms, so such as like a Beretta 92 is actually operates like a fixed barrel firearm, or let's say a 9mm rifle like an MP5 or a AR-15 chambered in 9mm. That would be a fixed barrel. The barrel does not move around when the action operates like in most pistols. If you shoot this on a fixed barrel rifle or like an AR-15, for instance, in 223, you will damage the piston, you will damage the suppressor. So there's that little warning in there. And I'm going to talk to you about how you can configure your Optimus to use on those types of firearms safely later. But basically, this booster piston assembly as it ships to you is really only for use on tilt barrel pistols. So just as long as you know that, you'll be fine. So this is what it comes with. I'm just going to quickly break down the front of the Optimus 2 so you get a chance to see the baffles. So it's got a front end cap, and then it also has this patented locking ring which secures the baffle assembly in place so that you can shoot the suppressor a lot and not have to worry about the end cap coming loose and things like that. And then from there, you're going to have your baffle assembly and your tube. So you got tube, baffles, lock ring, end cap. That's how that goes together. And then you got your accessories where you can interface it for a pistol or a rifle. So I'm going to put this back together quickly and show you how, if you were just receiving the suppressor, you could set it up to shoot on your pistol. So you're going to install this lock ring here, and you want that lock ring to actually be tight. So you're going to remove the retainer, and you can do that with the little wrench that we include if you want to, or you can do it probably with your hands as it comes out of the box. But you're going to grab that wrench, unscrew the piston retainer from the rear of your booster housing as it comes assembled in the box. And you're going to pull that retainer off the piston and pull this whole housing apart. So you're going to pull this retainer off, pull the spring off of the piston, and now the piston is going to be used as an actual wrench to locate on those features. And we recommend putting like a small screwdriver or something through those slots so that you can get a nice, torque on that part, so you can torque it into place. Just give it a nice firm twist. Same thing goes with the end cap. So I'm going to put the 9mm end cap on there. Be really careful when you're configuring the Optimus to make sure that you have the right sized end cap on there. Probably the only thing that we see with these suppressors in the service department is one of two things. People shooting the piston assembly like I just talked about that's meant for just fixed tilt barrel pistols. People shooting that on fixed barrel firearms and ruining some parts. And then the other thing that we see people doing is, forgetting to leave their 22 end cap on the suppressor and shooting it on a 9mm or a 30 caliber rifle, which will destroy the end cap and potentially could damage the tube. So now that we've got the locking ring installed in there with some torque, using our piston as a tool, we're going to do the same thing with the end cap. And like I said, you would just put something through there and give it a little twist. All right. Now you've got the core of the suppressor, the actual suppressor product assembled. And now if we wanted to use it on a pistol, what we would do is just reassemble our assembly, our piston assembly, with these 4 parts here. So you'd put the spring over the piston, put the piston inside the booster piston housing, put your retainer over the top of that, and I'd probably reverse thread it so you feel it click in there, then screw it down. And then you can use, like I said, your included wrench to tighten that up. But I'm just going to drop this in the rear of the suppressor. And now you've got it set up for a pistol. So I can thread this onto my pistol, onto my Glock 19, Glock 17, whatever, 9mm 1911, whatever you have. This is a 1/2x28 threaded piston, so it's going to be set up out of the box to run your standard American thread pitches. If you do need a metric piston or something else, we do have those on the website. If you have a European pistol with a factory threaded barrel from Europe, which is not extremely common. If you buy aftermarket threaded barrels like the Griffin Armament threaded barrels on our website for like a SIG P320, first, let's say, or a Glock, those barrels are going to come with a 1/2 inch, by 28 thread thread per inch thread on the barrels, so you're going to be fine with this. So this is the product set up for a pistol. You can have fun with that all day. Got the 9mm end cap in there. Just make sure that when you're switching to 22, if you wanted to switch this would be the configuration out of the box that you would use to shoot 22 rimfire. And if you wanted to do that, the only thing that you would change is your end cap going from 9mm to 22. And what that's going to do for you is it's going to significantly drop your sound on rimfire by using this end cap. I think in practical testing, if my memory serves me correctly, it drops about 8 to 10 decibels with 22 long rifle, which is a very, very significant drop. With 223 Remington, you're going to drop a couple decibels versus the 9mm end cap. It's not going to be huge, but it is a change. And this is the only size of the product, the pistol configuration or the pistol length, that we recommend the use of the 22 caliber end cap. In the longer configurations, the silencer is getting longer, and we're stacking tolerances, and you could potentially get an end cap strike if you use the 22 caliber end cap in the longer configurations. So this is only to be used, the 22 caliber end cap is only to be used in the short configuration that I have in my hand. So additionally, if you want to set this silencer up so you're done shooting on your pistol and now you want to set it up for rifle, you would just grab the included wrench, crack the piston housing loose, pull that thing out of there, and then you could drop your blast baffle, your rifle rated blast baffle, into the rear of the suppressor and grab your taper mount extension and throw it in the rear of the suppressor. Tighten this up. I usually just give it a firm twist with my hand. If you want to, there's wrench flats on there so you can get it a little bit tighter. This little gap here, one of the questions that we have sometimes with tech is this gap normal? And yes, that's totally normal. We want the tapers to actually press fit together. We don't want the shoulders of the tube to press fit together. So there is going to be a little gap here between the extension and the body. But now your product is set up in the rifle rated taper mount configuration. So all you have to do is install your taper mount on your host firearm. And since this is a 5H24 thread, we're going to make sure that that's installed to a minimum of 45 foot-pounds. And if you don't have a torque wrench or you're not familiar how to do that, your local gunsmith can assist you with that. But we also have videos on just how to install muzzle devices. You can check that out. So once your muzzle device is installed on the firearm, then you can just screw this on there, make sure that you cinch it up, and now you're able to shoot your 30 caliber rifle with your Optimus. So that's pretty cool. So that covers, in short, in as much brevity as I can have with you, that covers what the Optimus comes with out of the box and how to configure it out of the box to shoot not only your 9mm pistols, but also your 22 rimfires and your 30 caliber rifles. So we're going to roll into the next segment. It's going to be what accessories are available for this and how can I configure this different ways using Griffin's available accessories for the Optimus. Okay, so now we're breaking into the different configurations. And I just showed you pistol configuration and taper mount configuration as it comes out of the box. But now we're going to be talking a little bit more in detail about the full size configuration. If you reference your configuration guide, this is the largest version of the Optimus configuration. It's going to be 9.4 inches long and 17.6 ounces. So still pretty light actually versus a lot of 30 caliber options out there. It is a little bit longer than some and equally length as others, but that long length with the rifle extension is going to give you that added durability rating for 30 caliber projectiles up to 300 Winchester Magnum. Okay, so this is the only configuration that's rated up to 300 Winchester Magnum. But to just briefly touch on it again, you're going to have your body assembled with the 9mm end cap in there. Cinched up tight, both of them. In any of these configurations, with your baffle stack properly assembled and your locking ring tightened and your end cap tightened, you're going to see that the end cap is approximately flush with the end of the tube. Okay, if it sticks out a little bit, it's not a big deal, but you don't want the end cap hanging out almost to the point where it's falling off or something like that, that means that your baffle stack and your lock ring and stuff is not properly assembled. So in any configuration, you're going to want your end cap to be relatively flush with the tube body. So once you have your body properly assembled with the 9mm end cap, that's very important. People sometimes forget the correct end cap. Then you have your body assembled correctly. You're going to take your rifle baffle and just drop it in the rear, and once again screw on your taper mount extension. Now, anytime with any Griffin products where we have threaded joints, and that's the Optimus or anything else, we do recommend the use of an anti-seize product. You can find something at your local hardware store if you want to, or we sell a great product that's a high temperature anti-seize on our website. And that is 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit resistant. So you can actually run a silencer very hot with the anti-seize that we provide off of our website. It's relatively low cost. I think it's like $7 or $8, I want to say. And then when you are done shooting, you have just a very easy time taking apart your silencer because you've used that anti-seize product on the thread joints. So we very much do recommend the use of that. It's not a deal breaker if you don't use an anti-seize product. It's just way easier to take it apart if you do. So not to beat a dead horse, but that's a point that's worth making. So now with the full-size Optimus, we've got a host of different muzzle device options that are going to fit. In this configuration, the Optimus accommodates every taper mount muzzle device in the Griffin Armament line, whether that's a minimalist titanium brake right here, a minimalist brake in 17.4 stainless, our taper mount hammer comp, our taper mount 2-port Paladin brake, which is going to give you the best braking performance, our 3-prong flash hiders. We support the AK-47 with this, as well as the Optimus in the full size will also fit the taper mount flash comp. And there's also other devices in the taper mount family that are not even on this table right now. So we manufacture more muzzle device options than any other suppressor company. But the thing to know with the full size is that your full size Optimus is going to accommodate any taper mount in the Griffin Armament muzzle device family. So without anything really more to talk about, if you want to check out ratings and things like that for, well, what can I shoot this on? I'll touch on some ones that are included in your manual or in your ratings guide, but that's going to be a 24-inch 300 Winchester Magnum barrel or longer, which is very commonly the normal length. This is going to be rated for as far down as a 14.5-inch 308 or 6.5 Creedmoor type rifle. It's going to go down to 12.5 inches for a 6.8 SPC and 8 inches for a 7.62 by 39. Like if you're buying an AK flash hider, or maybe you got a PWS, 7.62 by 39 AR, it'll go down to 8 inches on that. 300 blackout super and subsonic, it's rated down to 8 inches. And if you're shooting this configuration on a 5.56 gun, like a regular AR-15, it's going to be rated down to 10.5 inches. So that covers the full size. Next, we're going to hop into the mid-size. Okay, so now we're going to be covering the mid-size. If you refer to your configuration ratings table, if you actually have your product, the mid-size is quite a bit shorter. It's 7.9 inches. It also loses some weight, 15.7 ounces, which is really nice. So if you're looking for a shorter, lighter configuration of this product, and maybe you're not using it on a 300 Winchester Magnum, which is the only thing that you're losing by getting rid of the factory included taper mount interface, then you're going to really probably like the mid-size configuration. This minimalist blast shield, taper mount minimalist blast shield, is the required individually sold accessory item that is going to be available on the Griffin website or through a Griffin authorized dealer. And this is the product that you're going to need to obtain in order to put your Optimus into the mid-size configuration, but it obviously installs the same way as the full-size taper mount extension. So all you do is throw that in there, make sure your rifle-rated baffle is in there, throw that in there, and make sure your 9mm end cap's on there. And now you've got the mid-size configuration, which is 7.9 inches, like I said, and 15.7 ounces. Now, the thing to know about this configuration is This configuration will not fit the longer taper mount muzzle devices in the Griffin taper mount line, like the flash comp or the linear comp or the tactical compensator. It will fit the minimalist, like I said with the long config. It'll fit the minimalist titanium, minimalist stainless steel brakes. It will fit the Paladin 2-port brake, and it will also fit the 3-prong minimalist stealth flash hider, and it will even fit the hammer comp, but only in one instance. So if you're running this on your normal 30 caliber rifles, these are basically going to be your options: the minimalist brakes, the Paladin brake, or the flash hider. But if you decide that you want to run this minimalist or this mid-size configuration Optimus on a 9mm fixed barrel rifle, such as an AR-9, like an Angstad Arms AR-9 or something like that, then it will accommodate the taper mount hammer comp in 9mm that we sell. However, you're going to have to pull this baffle out, because if you include this baffle in that configuration, you're not going to be able to install the taper mount hammer comp. It's not going to work, number one. But also, you're going to baffle strike this baffle. So if you pull this baffle out and reassemble the suppressor using the minimalist blast shield, and you'll notice that it now goes right up to the shoulder, then you can use a 9mm taper mount hammer comp to interface to your fixed barrel 9mm AR-15s, if you want to do that. You can also configure this with a 3-lug, which is probably the most popular option. But if you want an AR-15 and 9mm to look really cool with one of these compensators on the end, and you want to run in this configuration, that is a way that you can do it. But in that instance, you would pull out the rifle-rated baffle. So that's the only caveat to that. But the mid-size configuration is very popular because it is, quite a bit shorter at 7.9 ounces or 7.9 inches, and lighter weight at 15.7 ounces. Dropping 2 ounces from the full-size config. So there you have it, mid-size configuration, shorter taper mount muzzle devices. Quickly to touch on ratings, this is not rated for 300 Winchester Magnum like the full size is that is included with the product, but it is rated for 308 down to a 16-inch barrel, as well as 6.5 Creedmoor on a 16-inch barrel, which is a very short barrel for 6.5 Creedmoor. Most people are not going to run their 6.5s with barrels that short, but it is rated that short. 6.8 SPC down to 12.5 inches. Also 7.62 by 39, 8 inches, and 300 Blackout Super and Subsonic at 8 inches as well. 5.56, if you're running this on an AR-15 in this configuration, you can run this down to 10.5 inches. And just to note, just like the full-size taper mount, you are going to have that little gap here between the minimalist brake and the body, which is going to ensure your taper blast baffle locks up with the taper interface here. So that covers the mid-size configuration of the Optimus. Just make sure that you use the 9mm end cap in this configuration. Now we're going to roll into the A2 configuration. All right, so the A2 configuration is interesting because it allows you to mount your Optimus to a standard AR-15 with a NATO-style A2 birdcage flash hider. If you go into any gun store and look at a lot of their AR-15s, they're going to have a standard A2 birdcage on there. So if you want to, you can purchase this accessory separately. This is another separately available accessory, the A2 interface, and it's a 2-piece interface. It's got a lot of complex geometry on it. This thing is an absolute kind of nightmare to manufacture, but we do a very good job of it. But it has 3 prongs on the inside. It's got several OD threads, tapers, and this is really the bear of the product. This is another one, though. It's got a collar on it as well. So it's a 2-piece accessory product, and you basically are going to just screw this into the rear just like you would anything else on the Optimus. All right, it does have the car stock wrench geometry on this piece, so that you can cinch that up. Whoop, okay. Once you have a mounted AR-15 with a mounted muzzle device, and I'm using the hammer comp here for instance, you're going to put the collar over the muzzle device like such. So you're going to key this piece through there, drift it into the rear blank firing adapter groove, and then you're going to be able to put this Optimus over that and screw this down and screw this collar down. And so now you're going to have a mount that interfaces with your A2 birdcage flash hider. So if you're a guy with a collection of AR-15s and your friends have AR-15s, and you have, they all or a lot of them have A2, very inexpensive A2 compensators. I think you can commonly find these things for like $12 on the market or something like that. That's a good reason maybe to purchase this interface, because you can run this on a lot of your friends and families and your own personal collection of AR-15s. So this is a pretty popular accessory combination of parts that people do really like, and like that the Optimus accommodates. For R mounts, if you're running these accessory parts on R mounts, it's going to accommodate our M4SD hammer comp, as well as the M4SD flash comp in both the 5.56 as well as the 30SD flash comp for 30 caliber. So if you're if you have a 30 caliber AR-15, like a 300 Blackout or a 6.5 Grendel, you could run the 30 SD flash hider on there and the A2 mount interface, and then you could run your A2 mounted Optimus on a 6.5 Grendel or a 30 caliber AR-10 or something like that. And then on the AR-15s in 5.56, 223 Remington, you can run your A2 Optimus configured Optimus on those AR-15s using this accessory product with either the M4SD hammer comp, the M4SD flash comp, or like I said, which is probably why most people are running this, the very inexpensive A2 NATO compensator. So that covers the A2 configuration. As far as ratings on this thing, 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor with the use of the 30 SD flash comp is going to rate you down to 16 inches. 6.8 SPC is going to rate you down to 12.5 inches. Now with the 6.8, you'd also be using the 30 SD flash comp. And then 7.62 by 39 would be 8 inches, and 300 Blackout Super and Sub would be 8 inches, and 5.56 would be 10.5, like the other products as well. So that covers the A2 interface. And next thing we'll be rolling into is going to be the short version that we touched on briefly at the beginning, and the accessories that are available for it. So lastly, we're going to talk about the 9mm short configuration, or the short configuration and the different calibers you can shoot with that, and different configurations there are for it, because there's a multiple different way to run the Optimus in this short length. We touched on at the start of the video using the included and pre-assembled pistol assembly with the piston in there. I'm going to touch on the 3-lug kit now. So for people who have maybe an MP5 or an Uzi or a Mac, or an AR-15 in 9mm or something, or even a lever action in 38 Special. There's a lot of different firearms that the 3-lug is applicable for, but any rifle that you want a 3-lug, any fixed barrel firearm that you want a 3-lug, you can use the 3-lug kit for. Now we have had questions, hey, can I run the 3-lug on my pistol? No, you can't, unless it's like a Beretta 92 FS. But if it's a Glock, if it's a Springfield, if it's a Smith & Wesson M&P or a SIG 320, any tilt barrel pistol, the 3-lug kit is not going to work, because your slide is not going to actually unlock, and your gun will essentially become a bolt action pistol with a suppressor on it. So the 3-lug is not applicable to those firearms, but it is applicable to fixed barrel firearms like an MP5, AR-9, etc. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to use the piston housing that you received in the box with your Optimus. You're going to take the piston retainer off the rear of your piston assembly, and then you're going to basically just remove the piston and spring from this housing and the retainer. So this entire three-piece assembly that is required to run your tilt barrel pistol, you're going to set it aside. Then you're going to take the 3-lug kit that you received from your Griffin dealer or our website, and you're going to assemble it. So it's going to have the black part, it's going to have a stainless steel bushing. The bushing is going to have a longer shaft piece on one side. That's the side that sticks out. You're going to put the spring over the top of that, and then you're going to put this back inside the piston housing that you removed the piston from. So then from here, you're going to use maybe your wrench that you received with the product to make sure you tighten all that up. You're going to put this assembly in the rear of the Optimus, and now you're going to have a really nice low profile mounted 3-lug interface that you very securely and easily installed using the included wrench. And now you've got your 3-lug Optimus, which is really badass. Now this thing is available with several different 3-lug mounts from Griffin Armament. We manufacture 3-lug mounts for 9mm and 45. The 45 mounts are not applicable to the silencer, obviously, because it's a 9mm silencer. But if you did buy a Revolution 45 or a Resistance 45 pistol silencer from Griffin, you could use this same 3-lug interface with that pistol silencer, with that specialty pistol silencer, as you're using with this universal pistol silencer, the Optimus. And then you could get 45 ACP or 40 Smith & Wesson or 10mm capability out of that 3-lug, and you can swap this 3-lug between your different Griffin suppressors. This 3-lug system also is applicable to the Optimus Micro. So if you buy an Optimus Micro at a point in the future, you can use the 3-lug on it to have a snap-on rimfire silencer to your .22 handgun using a 1/2x28 3-lug here. So any Griffin product you buy, there's a lot of cross-commonality of parts and components, such that, you know, the deeper you go with the brand, if you decide to do that, the more flexibility you have with the products that you already own. So for the Optimus specifically, we support it by manufacturing here in-house the 1/2x28 and I believe it's 1/2x36 3-lug mounts, and then we also do a 13.5x1 left-hand metric mount, and this is different in that it has these wrench flats in the rear, and this is for specifically we pretty much made this for the SIG MPX 9mm, since those firearms are threaded 13.5x1 left-hand. With the 3-lugs that you buy from Griffin Armament, you're going to be able to use the included wrench that came with your Optimus to install those 3-lugs onto your barrels. And we recommend basically just a little bit of red Loctite and just kind of, you know, reef it on there with some torque. There's no specialty torque really needed for a 3-lug. The reason why, which we have had that question, is because there's no porting and gas stuff, you know, going on with a 3-lug attachment, so they're not going to vibrate loose or shoot loose with, you know, with force like a muzzle device would that's pushing gas around. So there you have the 3-lug kit. Additionally, I guess from here, the next thing to talk about would be the use of the fixed barrel spacer. So we're going to talk about the fixed barrel spacer next. I'm going to remove this 3-lug from the Optimus, and I'm going to show you an inexpensive way to configure the Optimus for fixed barrel rifles, such as an AR-9 or a lever action, all those types of guns that we just covered with the 3-lug kit. If you don't want to spend the money on the 3-lug kit and you don't want to have that, you know, quick attach capability, you can get this. You can at least still use the Optimus on those types of firearms with the very inexpensive fixed barrel spacer. So with this fixed barrel spacer essentially replaces the spring that goes over your piston. So you're still using your piston to attach the Optimus to your fixed barrel firearm. So if you have like a Beretta 92, like I've mentioned several times in this video, you can shoot the Optimus on the Beretta 92 safely by using the fixed barrel spacer. You can also do the same thing with the lever action example that I aforementioned, or an MP5 or an AR-15 in 9mm. if you want to direct thread attach the silencer. We always recommend the use of muzzle attachments whenever possible, just because people with direct thread suppressors tend to not check the tightness of the suppressor on the barrel, and after they shoot it for a while, sometimes they'll get baffle strikes because a direct thread is more likely to loosen itself than something with a positive attachment system like a taper mount or a 3-lug or something like that. So that's the one thing to look out for. If you do run a lot of direct thread configurations, you're going to want to make sure that you check the tightness of the silencer every so often. And that's most of a problem with your tilt barrel pistols that have this spring on the rear where that silencer is actually oscillating out and recoiling under fire. There's so much movement going on there that the silencers very frequently come loose off the end of the pistol barrel, and you're going to want to check it, every probably 7 to 10 rounds to make sure that it's still tight. But if you want to use the fixed barrel spacer, you're just going to remove your spring off of the piston here, put the fixed barrel spacer in its place, drop that back into drop this back into the socket there, and then you're going to use your piston retainer just like you would with the spring, and you're going to reassemble this, and it's going to look exactly like it does for the pistol configuration with the tilt barrels, because you're using the same components, but now you've locked the piston out from traveling. And so if you shoot this on like even an AR-15, for instance, you're not going to have it oscillating out and damaging your piston, and you're damaging your retainer and things like that. So the fixed barrel spacer is absolutely needed for a fixed barrel firearm if this is the component you want to use. You could also use the taper mounts or the 3-lug attachment or something else, but people that do buy the Optimus, a lot of people that do buy the Optimus will purchase the fixed barrel spacer because it's just so inexpensive and allows you to get that utility out of your Optimus on fixed barrel firearms. So other than this stuff, so we've gone through, I guess, 3 different ways to use your short config now. We've gone through the tilt barrel pistol with the spring in the piston. We've gone through the 3-lug quick detach system, and then we've gone through the fixed barrel part. The last accessory that you can use with your Optimus is going to be, in this configuration, is going to be our direct thread adapters. So if you want, you can buy a direct thread adapter in place of the fixed barrel spacer and piston assembly and all of that. And you can throw this directly in there. We make these in 1/2 by 28 thread as well as 5/8 by 24. You can directly install that, and now you have a direct thread Optimus. I guess the only performance advantage of running the Optimus with a direct thread adapter versus the piston and the fixed barrel spacer is you're going to have a little bit more durability with the system running a direct thread adapter versus the fixed barrel spacer. Also, you're not putting more wear on your piston where maybe you want to just reserve that for pistol use. I don't know. But either of these configurations is fine to use, and the fixed barrel spacer is less expensive than the direct thread adapter, so it's kind of up to you, how you want to configure your Optimus, of course. It's your product, you bought it, and we hope you enjoy it. And if you have any other questions about any of these configurations, feel free to hit us up. I've tried to be as exhaustive as possible, though, to answer any questions you might have. Lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to cover maintenance. So we're going to break this thing down. I'm going to bring in some maintenance tools and show you guys how you can maintain the Optimus very easily with just some common tools. And it is nice to have a universal silencer that does come apart for cleaning, especially if you're shooting rimfire on it. If you're shooting 9mm pistols, sometimes pistol jackets will separate, copper fragments will, get inside the silencer from jacket separation. And so it's just nice to have pistol silencers that come apart. And so I'm gonna break into the maintenance section of this video in just a minute. Okay, so we went over the Optimus. What is the Optimus silencer? Why is it so popular? Being able to shoot it and using all these different kinds of things, right? What was included in the box? Okay, how can we set it up right out of the box to work on our pistol and our rifle? what other accessories were available for it, how to get into these different configurations. So we went over all of that information, and now we're basically going to cover maintenance and how to disassemble it, reassemble it, things like that, things to look for. First and foremost, for maintenance, I'm going to touch on, if you go to our website and go to silencer maintenance, which is under the silencers portion of the website, you will see some brushes there and an anti-seize product. This is the anti-seize that we sell. Like I said, you could get a lower temperature anti-seize from like your local hardware store if you're not really abusing the product very much or bringing it up to high temperature. This though, we call it horse jipe, just 2300. But it is 2300 Fahrenheit degree rated. So it's extremely heat resistant. Silencers can get up to, about 1,000 Fahrenheit within about 90 rounds of rapid fire ammunition, like on a 223 AR-15, for instance. So you do want a high temperature anti-seize. That is preferable versus something that's available at the hardware store. But again, you can play around with it and see what happens. But we have this available. This is basically, you're going to apply this to your threads and things like that. Then we also have a couple brushes. We have a 1-inch pipe cleaning brush, and that's applicable to the Optimus. And then we have a 1 1/4-inch pipe cleaning brush. So let's say you were out at the range and you just got done shooting your Optimus and you want to clean it. You fired several hundred rounds through it. We recommend breaking your Optimus down for maintenance about every 300 to 500 rounds, maybe 200 rounds. You could do it every time you go to the range if you're a guy that's into maintenance. It's not totally critical. Like I said, there are wrench flats here, to break this loose and stuff like that if you have some stubborn components. However, you don't want to leave them in your safe for extended periods of time, 6 months, without cleaning it, because the copper can foul it up and make it just really difficult to clean. So cleaning it's kind of up to you, but we just recommend staying on top of it so you don't have issues breaking it apart and stuff like that in the future. So I'm going to just remove this rear piece, drop this baffle out. If this baffle didn't come out, you'd use the black pusher tool that I showed you in the unboxing to push it out from the front end. Okay, so you can push that out. You got that out. Now using our piston as a wrench, I'm going to interface that on the end cap and grab like a screwdriver or something like that to unlock that. So I'm going to unlock that. Okay, spin the end cap off, and then we're going to have that locking ring end cap as well underneath it that we're also going to need to take off. Same way. So I'm going to position that under there. Take that off. Okay. Undo that. Now from here, and this isn't a dirty silencer, this is a brand new silencer that's only been test fired at the factory and hasn't been shipped yet. But if it is really dirty, you might have to push the baffles out of the rear using like a non-marring tool, like a wooden dowel or something like that. But we've never had issues. Customers don't really have issues with it. We leave some tolerance for the baffle assembly so that you can get it out and work with it. So here's your baffles now. You've got essentially 5 baffles that are all the same, and then you've got one that's different. The one that's different is your end baffle. These, you can take apart, clean however you'd like. When they go back together, so you can brush them, you can throw them in a tumbler, like a brass tumbler type machine. You can put them in a blasting cabinet and blast them off, however you want to do it. You can put them in an ultrasonic cleaner. There's a multitude of different ways to clean silencers. But once you're done cleaning these baffles, you're going to kind of gently push them together and just rotate them until they lock together. And there's these little locking tabs you'll see. You want them to be flush to each other. If they're rotated out of phase and they're not locked, then when you reassemble it, your end cap will hang out. And I'll basically show you what that looks like right now. If I were to reassemble this improperly, because my baffles weren't properly seated, maybe I'd only be able to get the end cap to look like that, where it's hanging out. And that's like a dead giveaway that you didn't assemble your baffles correctly. So you'd take it apart, reassemble, make sure all your baffles are locked together, and then you'd be able to, screw that down so that your end cap is relatively flush. Okay, so that's a little tip that's helpful for reassembly. This 1 1/4 inch brush, once you have your tube, disassembled and your baffles are out of there, the 1 1/4 inch brush you can use to brush the inside diameter threads on both sides of your tube to make sure that they're free of carbon. And you can even go inside and brush down the inside of the tube wall if you have kind of rings of carbon building up in there over time. This is a shielded baffle stack, more or less, so you're not going to have that issue very much. But if you do a lot of shooting, you can go deep with these brushes if you want to get way down in there and clean out the entirety of the inside of the tube. So after you're done cleaning the ID threads on the tube, then you're going to be ready to put your baffles back in there. So we're going to start with the end cap baffle, which is closest to the end cap. Then we're going to build back, and there's no relationship with these parts. They're all interchangeable other than just that one. So when we get that done, we're going to grab our tube and just dump this over the top, slide it off the table, capture that baffle stack. Now what I do is I put my fingers in the end cap and I rotate it just to make sure that end cap baffle's locked in and the whole assembly's locked together, which it is. Now we'll take that lock ring, and this is where, if you were done brushing and cleaning this lock ring and the end cap, you would maybe apply some of this anti-seize. So you could take just a small amount of this anti-seize and roll it on the threads. You could do this with a Q-tip applicator if you want, if you don't want to get on your hands, whatever. And then screw that into place. The anti-seize is recommended for any Griffin pistol silencers or any of our silencers that come apart with threads. If there's interfacing components there, it's just going to make your life a lot easier when you're maintaining your product, because things are going to break away so much easier. It's just like you're working on your truck when you're replacing brake pads. If you use anti-seize when you put those bolts back in, it's going to be way easier to service your brakes next time. So same, obviously, concept applies to threads with silencers. So you can anti-seize the end cap too if you want. Throw this back in here, you're good to go. Okay, so now that's clean. The booster piston housing as well as the taper mount extension, that's what you're going to use your 1 inch brush for. So you're going to get in here with this guy, clean this ID thread, get in there in the socket, clean that out. This does get a lot of carbon buildup. You can also throw that in an ultrasonic cleaner, like I said. The only part on the Optimus that really can't go in an ultrasonic cleaner is going to be your piston retainer. Okay, this is the only part on the whole Optimus that's aluminum. And so this is the only part that we don't recommend putting in an ultrasonic cleaner. So with that being said, everything else could if you had one. So this is done cleaning with a 1 inch tube. You're also going to put some anti-seize, on these outside threads here, or you can put them in the inside threads of the tube, whatever. Okay, for reassembling that. For the taper mount extension, you're going to use your 1 inch brush again to clean the taper mount and the taper mount threads for your mounting for your actual muzzle device. And we slap some anti-seize on muzzle device threads too, and the muzzle device taper shoulders. So you could put that, in here as well if you wanted to, just for even attaching to your muzzle device. That's nice. We actually use this a lot when we're durability testing silencers. We're running them up, 200 rounds rapid fire, something like that, to really burn out a silencer and test it for durability. And we'll put the 2300 rated, Fahrenheit rated anti-seize product on there, and we'll be able to break the silencer loose, no problem. And sometimes when you're durability testing like that, pushing cans over 1500 degrees Fahrenheit, which we don't recommend people do, but that's where you can really see the merits of using anti-seize. Anyway, so we got this clean, that clean. For this thread, you can put some anti-seize on there anyway. Make sure it's all clean. You can kind of see I'm hitting the same points over and over again, but just make sure it's all clean. Use the brushes. They're available on the website. Be sure to use anti-seize. The only component that can't go in an ultrasonic cleaner if you have one is the retaining ring. That'll just strip the anodize off and weaken the material. Everything else is fine. The only caveat to that though also is that it could mess with the nitride coating on your silencer. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you really like the surface finish of this, which it is a very nice finish, then, you know, maybe you're better off using, you know, and if you throw in an ultrasonic cleaner with water, you'll be fine, or some dish soap. But if you use aggressive chemicals like toilet bowl cleaner or something like that, you'll rust this thing within seconds. You know, there's some very aggressive household chemicals that will ruin the finish of your silencer almost immediately. And even in that sense, it's not the end of the world. You could, you know, blast it and recoat it with Cerakote or something, have your gunsmith recoat it for you. You know, the silencer's still fine. It's just that, you know, we don't want to be abusive to our stuff, right? You pay good money for this stuff and you want to take care of it. So that pretty much covers maintenance for the product. It is a fully user serviceable universal silencer, of which there's only one currently on the market like it, which is the Optimus. I appreciate you watching this video. I know it was really lengthy and pretty boring, but there was a lot of good information covered in terms of the configurations and all the different parts that can be used and how and when. If you want additional information for this, we're going to drop the ratings for the products below in the description of the video. You could also hit up customer service if you ever have unique questions. We do get some odd questions sometimes, like, hey, can I shoot a 6mm Lazzaroni through this on a block? You know, feel free to hit us up. You know, that's what we're here for. That's what customer service is here for. That number is 262-200-0003, option 1. If you want to contact customer service, but that's also on the website. And those phones are staffed 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Sometimes it's hard to get through, but we do always respond to voicemails. We always respond to email tickets. So I appreciate you watching this. I hope I answered the majority of your questions, and enjoy your Optimus. Great silencer. We appreciate your business, and thank you for tuning in.